The 1977 Jefferson nickel may look like a common 5-cent coin, but if you know what to check, this coin can still be very interesting to collectors. It was struck at the Denver Mint, carries the small D mint mark, and had a very large mintage of more than 297 million pieces, which means most examples are common in everyday grades. The coin weighs 5 grams, has a plain edge, and is made of 75% copper and 25% nickel. If your 1977 nickel is in low grade or normal circulated condition, the value is usually very modest. NGC says circulated pieces are generally worth about 10 to 20 cents, and that tells us most worn examples are collected more for interest than for big money. In circulation, this coin is usually worth only a little above face value unless it has something special such as an unusual error, outstanding eye appeal, or a strong strike. A lightly worn coin may still be worth keeping, but most everyday examples are not rare because so many were made. PCGS notes that the coin is fairly common in most grades, with examples easy to find up through about MS65. Now let's talk about uncirculated condition, because this is where the 1977 nickel gets more interesting. USA Coin Book estimates a regular uncirculated 1977 nickel at roughly 61 cents to $3.62 or more in mint state, depending on quality. That means a normal bright coin from a roll or old collection can still have collector value, but not every shiny coin is a jackpot. The real jump comes in high grades. PCGS says examples are common through MS65, become much scarcer in MS66, and are rare in MS67 or higher. So if your coin has very clean surfaces, strong luster, very few marks, and sharp details, it may deserve closer inspection. There is also an important premium for full steps, often called FS. That means the steps of Monticello on the reverse are sharply struck and clearly defined. For the 1977 DFS variety, PCGS lists an auction record of $4,320 for an MS67 FS example, while Great Collections report sales ranging from $6 to $4,974 over the years depending on grade and quality. For a regular non-FS coin, PCGS shows an auction record of $247 for an MS67 example. That is a big difference from circulated coins, and it shows why condition matters so much. At first glance, a dirty 1969 Jefferson 5-cent nickel can look like nothing special. It may be dark, worn, stained, and so old that many people would toss it aside without a second thought. But that is exactly what makes this coin interesting. Sometimes an old nickel is just a common survivor from circulation, and sometimes it becomes a collector piece because of grade, strike, or a real mint error. The key is knowing the difference before you judge it too quickly. The first thing to understand is this. In 1969, Jefferson nickels for circulation were struck only at Denver and San Francisco. That means your coin should have either a D or an S mint mark above the date. CoinWeek notes that no nickels were struck in Philadelphia in 1969 or 1970. A 1969 nickel has a mintage of 202,807,500, and PCGS lists its composition as 75% copper and 25% nickel, with a weight of 5.00 grams and a diameter of 21.20 millimeters. So if your coin looks rusted, that usually is not true rust. It is more likely corrosion, dirt, staining, or environmental damage, and collectors usually do not reward that kind of damage with high prices. Now let's talk honestly about value. If your 1969 Jefferson nickel is heavily circulated, dirty, and damaged, it is usually a very low-value coin. CoinWeek says a circulated 1969 is worth its face value of 5 cents, and NGC's 2026 guide for both the 1969 and 1969 puts circulated examples broadly around 10 to 20 cents. In real-world terms, a dark and ugly coin is usually at the bottom of that range, often just face value. So if your nickel is old and rough but otherwise normal, it is more a historic pocket coin than a jackpot coin. Where the story changes is in uncirculated grade. If your coin turns out to be a 1969 current market tracking shows about $15.56 in MS65, $23.97 in MS66, and about $26 in MS67. PCGS adds an important detail. The 1969 is very common in all grades up to and including MS66, and none have been certified finer by PCGS. That tells you something powerful. The regular 1969 nickel is common, but truly elite examples still matter because condition is everything. If your coin is a 1969 S, the market can look stronger in top grades. Current market tracking shows roughly $13.39 in MS65, $36 in MS66, and $154.17 in MS67. PCGS says the 1969 S is common in mint state but usually appears in MS64 to MS65, with MS66 becoming semi-scarce, and only one MS67 listed in its top population narrative. That means a 1969 S in ordinary shape is nothing dramatic, but a high-grade example can become a much more serious collector coin. Now comes the part that makes people stop and pay attention: auction records. PCGS lists the regular strike 1969 D auction record at $3,120 for an MS67 example, sold through Heritage on May 4, 2025. That is already a huge jump from face value. But the real headline belongs to the famous 1969 D full steps rarity. PCGS says only one example has earned the full steps designation there, and that coin sold for $33,600 in Stacksbauer's August 2021 ANA sale. PCGS also notes that this single full steps coin came from a mintage of more than 202 million pieces, which shows how one tiny detail can turn a common date into a major trophy coin. And then there are the real mint errors, which many people casually call misprints. Heritage sold a 1969 D incomplete curved clip graded MS65 for $172.50. A 1969 D struck on a dime planchet graded MS64 sold for $373.75. And a 1969 D struck on a cent planchet graded MS65 red and brown sold for $460. These are the kinds of mistakes that can make a normal-looking date become exciting. But the important lesson is this: dirt is not an error, damage is not an error, and corrosion is not an error. True value comes from a real mint mistake, a top-certified grade, or extraordinary strike detail. So the final truth is simple. If your 1969 Jefferson nickel is dirty, dark, and rusted-looking, it is probably worth only face value to a very small premium unless it has something special. Do not clean it. Cleaning can make an old coin even less desirable. Instead, check the mint mark, study the steps on Monticello, look for unusual weight, clipped edges, off-metal color, or a strange strike. Most 1969 nickels are ordinary survivors. But the right one, the sharp one, the era coin, the elite grade piece can surprise you in a big way.